I was enamored with records from an early age. I was told that I used to walk around the house with a pencil stuck in a piece of vinyl and would spin it around asking for music, even when there wasn't any on. Some of my earliest recollections are hearing I Saw Her Standing There by the Beatles and that count-off that Paul McCartney did, and I think I've been kind of hooked ever since on this idea of being able to capture energy and be able to record it and play it back whenever you want it. Out of high school, I thought I wanted to be an electrical engineer, so I was taking community college classes while at the same time working at a music store, and always had an interest in systems, guitar rigs in particular at the time. At some point during those years, I found out about the University of Miami's music engineering program. Found out it was a degree in music, so I had to get into the music school, which is a whole other thing because I was the definition of how do you get a guitar player to turn down. You give him a chart. But somehow I took a 6-month crash course in jazz and was able to get my way into school. I've been very fortunate in that I have a pretty strong work ethic, and I also have a lot of really good friends, and both of those things have served me well. Some of my first gigs when I moved to LA were recommendations through friends. You know, a tech at a studio knew that they needed an assistant engineer to fill in while somebody was either sick or couldn't be there. So when I first moved out to LA, I was an independent assistant my first year out here. I would come in, I would learn rooms. At that point, basically, if you knew how to work the coffee machine, the headphone system, and the phone system, you could work in a lot of places. And I made my way around until Sunset Sound actually offered me a full-time position as an assistant, and that's where I kind of got in. The key difference between a live and a studio recording is basically cleaning it up. Live recordings, you have to deal with bleed, tuning a live vocal can be a bit challenging at times, but it's doable. And then it also depends on the time frame to get it done. I've worked on a few projects where I've had to turn something around really quickly. It's been recorded, and then within 3 days, it has to be ready for rebroadcast. And those were always a bit challenging, but super fun at the same time. Kind of like it all, to tell you the truth. I really like working on records in almost any capacity I can, as long as I can help an artist or help a production move forward. I think that's the most important part by far. Mr. Meticulous, that's a Mr. Bonsai for sure. Back in the 90s, he was writing for EQ magazine and would do these great little profiles on different people around town, and I was lucky enough to be chosen by him. And he always came up with nicknames for people. And he had called the studio manager at Sound Factory looking for an idea. And Phil basically told him that I was always meticulous with my notes and my tape box labels and stuff like that. So that's how I became Mr. Meticulous. And to this day, I get a Christmas card from Mr. Bonsai every year, and it's always addressed to John, Mr. Meticulous Paterno. I think I work on things I'm gravitated to at the end of the day. Genre is not a concern to me as much as feeling like I can be engaged with the music and with the performances. Bottom line is performances for me, and the nice part is that could be a jazz record, it could be a punk record, it could be a blues record, it could be all kinds of things. It could be doing voiceover stuff even. You know, as long as there's a great performer on the other end of the microphone or somebody who really feels like they need to express themselves, then I'm in. I ended up working with Robbie Williams through one of my best friends, actually, a drummer named Jeremy Stacy. So they had called me up and asked me if I would track a tune for them. And then a few years later, I got a call from the A&R guy asking if I would be interested in working on another Robbie record. They'd spent a few years working on this record that became Intensive Care. So I was brought in basically after a couple of years of them working on it. Turned into a really great stretch of working on live stuff and then also working on this studio record. One of the most impressive things about Steve Gadd is just his musicality. I mean, it's obvious in his playing and in his choices, but also in the way he directs other musicians. The first song on the Steve Gadd Band record that I recorded and mixed called Africa. So Steve had this idea to change the bass part, and it was just a matter of moving it a little bit in the bar, like where the accents were. And it totally made the tune open up in a really interesting way. And it was a great experience just to see how his mind works in that sense. Another cool thing was he would do an overdub after we'd done a track, and it would be the simplest little detail. He would take brushes and play them on a floor tom. And then you'd play it back, you'd blend it in, and then as soon as you take it out, you'd go, what happened? So it's just this masterful little stroke and these little things. And the fact that Steve is into those details and has that kind of insight, to me, was really, really inspiring. Oh, Bonnie Raitt's incredible. That woman can sing the phone book and it'd be the most soulful thing you've ever heard in your life. She's just awesome. Great vibe to be around, really loose, really fun. And what a player and what a singer. Yeah, that's all I can really say about her. She's incredible. First heard about McDSP in the late 90s, which is around the time I got my first Pro Tools rig. And I'm sure that Filter Bank was the first plugin I ever bought. And it stayed with me in one incarnation or another ever since. Some of my go-to McDSP plugins are the AE600, which at this point I don't think I can mix without. I really like Futzbox because it offers me a wide variety of choices to really kind of mangle stuff and create something really cool. Also, the F2, the filter, comes in incredibly handy. And my latest discovery is the FRG 444. I don't know what Colin did with this one, but it's a winner. It's an interesting time now because everything has really dispersed. The most important things I would say are kind of what I said about myself earlier on. You know, work ethic, super important. Know your tools. Learn how to deal with people. Stay in touch with all of your friends, especially if you've gone to some type of school together, because you never know who's going to turn you on to your first couple of gigs. And then once that happens, then you're off to the races. Always be listening when you are on sessions or when you are around people who could possibly further your career or people who you just have an interest in working with. Listen to them and try to find a way to be helpful.